And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Isabella Greene, near-death experiencer, metaphysical specialist, and best-selling author committed to the evolution of consciousness and the liberation of humanity. Today we're going to be talking about exiting the reincarnation cycle and more. Isabella, welcome. It's great to have you back again.
Jeff, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you for having me on the show again.
Now, for all the new people who didn't see our video last time, can we first start with how you got involved or interested in the reincarnation cycle in the first place?
Well, it's been a long journey. I started astral projecting when I was 17 years old, and I was all over the astral dimension, and I saw things there that started me questioning things in the astral dimension. Astral dimension is where the afterlife is at. Then I had near-death experiences. I had 2 near-death experiences, and I was not very impressed with what happened there. I was one of the few people who do not have their hearts blown open by that experience, because I felt it was unfair to send me back when I was begging to not go back. And we talked about this in our first episode here. And then I learned the technique to go out of body at will, and I started doing that. And that gave me the access to perspective. As a matter of fact, it gave me access to the ability to see the system from the outside, kind of observe the whole structure, the bubbles of different worlds under the dome of entrapment that holds the reincarnation system together. And that's the reincarnation system, not only of our planet, but also other planets that are involved in the same kind of program. In between there somewhere, I was also doing personal sessions. For a short time, I was doing personal sessions for those who were passing. Their loved ones asked me to be present at the moment of passing, in spirit, to be present at the moment of passing, so that I could help the soul transition. And I observed different tunnels of light. White light is the most common, but I also saw other color tunnels present in parallel with white light tunnel, like the blue tunnel was there, and there were non-terrestrial beings with that. And there was also a hypnosis session that I took. I went to a practitioner who did quantum healing hypnosis. She was trained by Dolores Cannon, and I wanted to speak to the super consciousness that comes through us when we're under hypnosis in that state, to ask this question. My question was, can I get out of the reincarnation cycle? And is the whole reincarnation cycle really a hoax, or is that legit and stuff? And I got my answers. The answers were, you can get out. You just need to know that you can, and that you don't need anyone's permission. You need to, I thought I had to make an agreement to get out. And so I had all these questions in the hypnosis session. When I came back, I had the answers. And I have a video about that session on my YouTube channel. So there were many instances that led me to 2023, but I was just sitting on all of this information calmly and doing my New Age healing work that I still do, and just being the typical kind of New Age person, love and light and all that. And then in 2023, this consciousness just came in like a freight train. It's like, put that on paper, write about this. You have to put all of this together. And it was just an inner knowing that I need to do this now. And I did. I wrote my first book, and I was very nervous about putting it out there, because I did not know that there were other people who had the same ideas or the same concepts or the same awareness. I just thought, I'm gonna like stick my head out and put that out there. But I had a very strong knowing that I needed to do that. And once I did, turn out that there were a whole lot of people who were on the same page. And so the journey started. The journey within this school of thought for me started and really strengthened in 2023. And by now I know even more and understand even more because I've been focused on this subject for a year, and I've received so much feedback also from different people. And so now I feel like I'm on an entirely different level of awareness and knowledge. And so I produced another book that catches people up. My first one was like, first step. So the next one was, here, this is everything I learned throughout the year 2023, which was mind-blowing for me myself. I put it together for anyone who is following the same train of thought. Then they can have my 2 cents in that, through that book as well.
I want to go back to something you were talking about. And to me, it sounds like you were having some sort of shared death experience with people. Were you physically in the room with them when they passed, and then you saw them going into tunnels, or what exactly was happening?
No, I think shared death experience is when you are in the room holding the person, and you get to share the moment of passing with someone. I projected my spirit form into where they were. I had a couple of people in hospitals, on hospital beds passing. I had a couple of people at home. And so I would just, like, their loved ones would call me and say, well, they're about to pass, it looks like, or they are already unconscious, right? And or they're unplugging them, right? And so I would get into an altered state, and I would show up wherever they're at in the non-physical way. And so I was able to observe what was going on there. So it's similar to the healing work that I do now. From my own healing room, I work with people all over the world, in the Southern Hemisphere, in Australia, and in Europe, all over the United States. Consciousness is unlimited. We're not limited to physicality. You don't have to physically be present in a room with someone to have a shared experience with them. And so that's how I did it back then.
If we get to the big picture, who set up the cycle and why?
Woo. All right. So I receive my information now from, like David Icke says, that he goes into trance and then he comes back just knowing, right? I go into an altered state. I go into the void. I call it the true void now. I go into the true void, the fabric of reality, the field of the absolute, the omnipresence. I come back into every night in my meditative practices. When I come back, there's information in my head that wasn't there before. So I collect whatever you focus on. You're going to retain that and bring that back and have additional information about it. So this is how I get my knowing. I also get my knowing through different sessions. Like, people would ask questions, and I am in the altered state when I do personal sessions. And then I receive the downloads of the information, right? So I received the download. Sorry, what was the question? That's
kind of the how, but I wanted to know who created it and why.
Yeah, let's go there. So sorry. So I received through these modalities, I received the download that there were 3 different layers, or 3 different parts of human history. And we are in the third part of the history of human existence. And we're in the third part of the human existence where a certain type of beings from space who fought for ownership of this territory and won. They redid the whole thing. They altered or recreated the human body vehicle that we have right now, removing the access to different abilities that we used to have in the first two parts of the human history. And they also installed the entrapment system because they were dependent on the energy that human beings produce during suffering, which is called loosh. And Robert Monroe coined that term, loosh. And I received the download that this is what happened, and that we are in the third part of the human history where the body vehicle is altered to the point that we're focused on physicality of our experience, have no access to the bigger picture unless we really work to get that access. Really, then it's very challenging and hard to get there, but possible. And some people call them archons. Some people call them reptilians. I don't know if they're reptilian or what kind of race it is, but I know that they are the type of beings that operate on the level of consciousness where utilizing others for your own well-being is acceptable. So that's who created and generated this whole entrapment system.
Is it possible that the Earth is a galactic prison and that these beings are keeping us here until perhaps some other ETs will free us?
A lot in that question. First of all, there are no saviors to come and free us. We've been waiting for saviors forever, and there are no ETs that are going to come and free us because this is not permitted. We're not allowed to have any sort of saviors. Saviors, we've been waiting for saviors. We had illuminated souls come in, and we had different type of levels of knowledge and consciousness come in throughout the human history. What we do with them, we kill them usually, or we don't follow them at all. So I do not believe that, although it is said now that, oh, the ETs are coming to save us. The ETs are coming to save us is a very disempowering idea because it makes you sit there and wait for the savior, right? In the meantime, you can actually do something and get out yourself. And I think humanity, I think this whole wave of awareness that we are in the entrapment, that reincarnation is a part of the entrapment, all of that turned into, like, snowballed over this last year since 2023. It's all over YouTube now. A year ago, there was nothing about this on YouTube. Now it's all over YouTube. People are talking about soul trap and everything. I think that we, as the consciousness on this planet, are awakening to the fact that the reality of our experience, and that we can get out and that we can change it ourselves. So that would be my answer to that question.
So you're saying that even though we're trapped here, they cannot completely trap us. We're allowed to get out if we can figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you can teach yourself to get out of the body, not astral project into the system, not astral project into astral dimension, which is a part of the matrix. The whole astral, different dimensions of the astral that are part of the matrix. If you can teach yourself to get out, shoot out of the top of your head like a rocket, utilizing, waking up your Kundalini energy, to utilize it as a rocket fuel, that's your life force. That is so powerful that you will bypass the entire structure and you can land in the space where no entrapment exists. And it takes effort, and it takes perseverance, and it takes persistence and discipline, and all of the things that human beings were conditioned not to have, right? But those who do, or those who reawaken that within themselves, will be able to get out if they so decide. So yes, I absolutely agree that you can go ahead and get out on your own.
Is it possible that we're playing some sort of simulated game and we're all lost in the game and we did this to ourselves?
I don't know if we did this to ourselves, but there are many theories now that we are in the simulation. By the way, about the prison planet, right? There is a book circulating around, Interview with the Alien, or Alien Interview,
Right.
where the that's the idea. That means that we were guilty and we were brought here to pay off our sins or whatever. But the truth is, the archons, or the handlers of the simulation, they are recruiting the really advanced, high light souls to come here, because when that light is turned into suffering through the structure of the system, through the game that is applied onto us, that produces super juicy loosh. So the more advanced the soul and the more it suffers, the more they can feed off of it, or the more or the higher quality loosh they can get. So it is a prison from the perspective of the once you're in, you are in until you figure out how to get out. And by the way, all of the yogic traditions talk about getting out. If you listen to any gurus or anything, that they're teaching you get off the wheel of samsara. It's all like everyone is looking up to, like, let's get out of this simulation. But there are theories now that it is a simulation, and that it is artificially generated by high-end AI, like non-terrestrial AI. I don't understand enough from the technological perspective to give you a coherent explanation of how it works. David Icke, though, in his recent book, The Reveal, he talks about the structure of the simulation. And so that is maybe would be the resource for those who want to know how it works. But here's what I saw recently. I wanted to know if the fifth dimension is a part of the reincarnation cycle and a part of the matrix on earth, because we are all taught, like, oh, let's go into the fifth dimension, it's like the best, it's heaven on earth, and blah blah blah, right? We hear all this. That's the big deal. Like, new age community is all like looking to get into the fifth dimension. So I was like, I want to check if that's a part of the simulation or not. So first of all, I found out that it is a part of the simulation, because it's all about what? Fulfilling desires. What desires? Physical desires, material desires, good relationships, physical ease and grace, and no more suffering, no more pain, and then you have everything you want, and you can manifest anything you want. These are all human desires. These are all like desires of the body, vehicle, mind, ego structure right there, right? So you didn't go anywhere. You just got a little bit higher, in a little bit of a higher octave of a human experience. But here's an interesting thing. I went out of body to observe the dimensions. In the sixth dimension, dimension, well, maybe it's not the sixth dimension, but to me it looked like it was red, because I saw like a diagram. So in the sixth dimension, right above the fifth dimension, where it's like heaven on earth and heaven, right, in the astral, there was this gray static, like in like on the old school black and white TV. You might remember that. I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that. When there was no program on TV, there was just like that thing going on. It was all that. And the archons, the archonic beings would whoop, show up out of that, the gray static, into the fifth dimension and interact with the subjects, interact with the human souls. And I was like, what is all that gray static? Why is there nothing there? So my idea was that the simulation is projected from beyond that. So sixth dimension, they don't need to populate that with anything. No one is able to go there. Human consciousness, very few of the humans are able to bypass the fifth dimension and get into the level of sixth dimension consciousness. So they're not populating it. It's not required. So the simulation is not in any form in there, but it is like a technological static. All right. That's what blew my mind. And I've been processing this just recently, because when I wrote about this in my book, and I said, it's just gray static there. And I published the book, and now I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, that's technological stuff. That's a non-organic layer of whatever. So that's got to be a part of the simulation. And in my mind, that's proof that the projection happens for the layers where human consciousness can venture and observe.
I recently had Rizwan Virk on, who is a computer scientist, and he's wrote a couple books about the simulation theory.
Right.
And we talked about many of the other realms that people go to on the other side are also simulations.
Yes.
And
yes.
maybe the void,
so
and I'm adding now, maybe the void is the only place that's separate from all the simulations.
First point, absolutely correct. As above, so below, that we repeat here all the time. It is exactly that. The simulation runs not only our physicality, but also the non-physical in the afterlife. This is why they're able to read your mind. There are these Akashic records that hold every thing about you, your whole history. And so they can project whatever visual you need to see to be believable in the afterlife, to agree. So you will see your grandmother, you will see Jesus, or you will see whatever. I used to think that these are archons, right? The actual beings. But it is a much more logical explanation if it's a simulation, because it just literally scans your consciousness and it spits out exactly what you expect to see right there, right? So there is that, and there is also a fake presentation of everything organic that exists, including the void, within the simulation. It's like a video game, right? The video game that has environment that mimics our environment around us, like trees and houses and whatever, right? Or whatever that environment is, but it's produced by the game, right? So there is a fake void and fake light, and the stuff that we as souls and we as mediums are able to tune into organically and see, but there's also a projection of that within the simulation. And it is important to learn how to know the difference.
Isabella, this topic can be very scary for many people. So how can you put a positive perspective on this?
Well, I think that, look, we're already in it. So whether you're scared or you're not scared makes no difference whatsoever, except it's going to screw up your day, right? Being scared. So I think that adopting a neutral perspective is the way to go. And hey, you're already in it. You're already in it. We're all in it. It's not happening to one individual. We're all in it collectively. But if you want to get out and you don't like it, then practice, take some steps, expand your mind, expand your awareness, and you're free of it. It is the system that has loopholes. You can get out. You can create loopholes to get out. So it's only scary if you are completely helpless and completely stuck within this structure, right? But you're not. If you don't like it, you can get out. If you don't want to put an effort to get out, or you do like it, and a lot of people like it, by the way. Oh, it's great. Earth is fantastic. We're here to learn lessons. Sure, enjoy. You can stay as long as you want. So for those who are scared, remember that it is not the final answer. If you don't like this answer, do something about it to change it. And that's it. And it's possible.
I had a discussion with one of my guests, and he talked about that this whole simulation is going to come to an end soon. And we're going to have a big celebration. And after that, I don't know, maybe start a new one.
I think that that's the same idea as the aliens are coming to save you. It's because if you sit in there waiting for the new thing to happen all by itself, then you're not doing anything about it. And it's a very disempowering. It literally takes away your choice. You're literally just sitting there twirling your thumbs going, yeah, they're coming to save me anyway. I can just kick back and be a human full on, right? With the whole package of it. Sure. But it does not progress anywhere. In Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, I read that if you do not engage in the Kriya Yoga practices or breathwork practices and meditation practices that actually propel your awareness return, your abilities, and give you access to the bigger picture, then the evolution takes the evolution, or that forward movement takes millions of years. So maybe it is coming in millions of years when all of humanity caught up and made this one tiny step forward. But I did not look, if there are saviors waiting for us, once we come out of the body and we see the aliens there going, here, you can now go and be free. I would question that, first of all. I would think that the archons is just directing you because you believe that that's the saviors, right? But if it is real, turns out to be real, hallelujah, that's fantastic, super great. But if that doesn't turn to be the case, at least you practiced and you prepared yourself to actually take things in your own hands.
All right, what advice can you give us to be able to get out?
Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga, breath work, and meditation. I recommend learning the Cosmic Cobra breath, which is the shortcut to giving yourself an out-of-body experience through awakening of your Kundalini energy. So awakening of your Kundalini energy actually has a really bad rap too on Earth, right? Oh my God, it's terrible. It's going to make you crazy. It's so scary. I think that's another scare tactic right there to keep people away from doing it. It's doable. It's real. And I have put myself through all the steps that I now share and recommend and teach. So I know, I speak from experience. It is intense when your Kundalini energy wakes up, and it is something that needs to be approached with respect, and you need to be mentally prepared to what might occur. But other than that, it's doable, and that is your life force. That is the rocket fuel that will propel you out of the top of the head. You will fly out and you can land outside of the simulation, outside of the astral, outside of all of the dimensions of the matrix and the afterlife, and outside of the entrapment system in what I call the true void. The true void. If you astral projected and you're in a dark space of the void, that you're in the simulation still. But with this method, where it literally happens instantly, there is no slow traveling, there is no feeling of going anywhere, there is no lifting out of your body. It just, you one moment you're doing the breath work, and the next moment, like an explosion goes, your kundalini moved, and you're in the space that I call the true void. And from that space, where you are everything and nothing, you can bring the answers that you are seeking. And if you decide that you want to observe the system of the simulation, you can pull yourself into this consciousness that is observing. You will no longer be a part of the void. You'll be that little part of consciousness that is observant, and you can observe, and you can see like the sixth dimension, like I said, the static, and that everything in fifth dimension is what it is, and what is fourth, what is third. So the way to get out is to practice the ancient techniques that were given to us by enlightened beings. And they said, here's your way out of the wheel of samsara. Do it. But how many people do it? Not so many, right? Because we are entrapped. We're wired through physical body. The physical body serves the matrix. And so the physical body dominates our perspective, usually on Earth. And so no one is doing that. Has been available for centuries, that technique, but no one is really doing it because we didn't have the awareness of what it liberates us from.
How would somebody know that they are in the true void? And if they're there, is it a scary place?
Okay. This is why I say that it's important to have your mind prepared, because the human brain, the humanness, wants to have some sort of environment, wants to have the awareness of yourself within the dark space of the absolute, right? The true void is the space where there is nothing. You're not there, but at the same time, you're fully conscious. How is that possible, right? So the true void is the space where nothing is happening. You do not remember yourself as a human being anymore. You are not Joe Smith or anyone. You don't feel that you are at a distance from, I'm so far away from myself. If you have that thought, you're in a simulation.
But you are thinking?
If you are thinking, I'm so far away from myself, you're in a simulation. The true void, in the true void, you are absorbed into the fabric of the absolute. You're no longer that human brain that is thinking anything.
You're not thinking anything at all. You're just
being.
You're just being. Are you observing anything?
There's nothing to observe. If there is something there to observe, to hear, to smell, it's not real.
How would you know then that you're even awake or existing without thought?
That's a good question, but I'm laughing because that's the I think therefore I am, right? That's the question. It isn't. So the thoughts are the product of the matrix. Thoughts are the product of the brain processing something right there, and we have thoughts, right? There is a next level where it's just consciousness and awareness, and you are not perceiving anything through your sensory organs or through your brain computer. It's the state of being where the humanness is completely dissolved. And from having been there a million times now, a lot of times, for 9 years regularly, let's just say, it doesn't happen every night. That's the honest truth. But it happens regularly enough for me to be able to say what I say. From being there, it's the most incredibly liberating, expansive state of being, state of consciousness, state of everything. The New Age says we're all one. You experience that, but you're not you. You are not you to experience it. You're just the consciousness of everything. There are no words. I mean, if you try to put it in words, it just becomes small and meaningless. And um, Tao Te Ching, by the way, that book, Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, where he says, if you can describe it, it's not the true void. It's not the true Tao, right? So you really cannot describe it. You have to experience it. But to know the difference of whether you're in the simulation, still in the dark space of the simulation, the simulated void, or in the true void, pay attention. If anything is happening around you, voices, beings, you see yourself as a light form, you see yourself as an orb, you see anything on the way out, and they're like, oh, go here. It's the dark space right there. You're in a simulation. That's it. The true void, you land in the true void instantly without any interference, without any interaction with anything. And there is no interaction of any sort while you are there. That's the answer of how to know the difference.
All right, let me take you a little deeper.
Okay.
Let's say that your body just failed and you transition out of this realm and you go there. Then what?
Okay. That is where everything starts from, where everything is created from, and you can rest there and bask in that undescribable state of freedom and sovereignty and liberation and endlessness and infinity for as long as you like. But if at any point, any tiny part of that consciousness, which you are, you become, and you merge with, if you want, merge is not even the right word, but you return there, right? If at any point, any part of that, any tiny part of that consciousness decides to have a different experience, it will be without imposition of any sort. It will be without anyone dictating for you to go and do this or that and pay off your karma. It will be a free will choice of the free infinite consciousness to take on some sort of form and have some sort of experience that is chosen by you. This is the ticket to freedom from my perspective, soul freedom.
I guess what I was trying to ask was, you're there and you're supposed to be in a state of non-thinking.
Yeah.
So you're just existing in this place. And at some point you have a thought and then you will go to whatever you start thinking about.
I don't know if you can categorize that as a thought, but that is the fabric of everything. The dark matter, the scientists call it, right? The empty space between atoms that are like miles and miles apart if we zoom out, right? So that is the same fabric that produces form. And it could be light form, and it could be, well, when really, really condensed and very dense, then it produces physicality as well. And so it's all made of the same fabric. You return to the primordial fabric. That fabric produces itself or changes itself into some sort of form. And so I cannot I'm I'm not that fabric right now, right? So as from the human perspective, I cannot tell you how that occurs, but I know that it is by free conscious decision. You call it thought, that's incorrect. But there'll be a tiny part of that going, oh, let's have that experience now. Let's form into this. So that's how I can explain that now.
Would you call or label the true void God?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. The true prime creator, if you wish, right? The true creator, not someone who had a egocentric idea. Let's create this whole simulation, and I'm the and declare myself the true God here and feed off of my subjects. That's what we have happening here on Earth, and create the whole system of control that feeds me, right? And I am just like punishing, saying that if you don't follow myself or my orders blindly, then you are terribly punished. All of that is in the Bible, right? In the stories, Old Testament stories, and in the Genesis, in the book of Genesis, all of that is there. So these are already creations that created something else for their benefit. But the true, absolute, unconditional state of love, you actually experience it when you are in the true void.
So you do experience emotion, or at least the emotion of love.
Not the emotion. Human body is the machine that produces and experiences emotions and processes emotions. It's the state of being. You experience the state of unconditional love. And only the person who's been there can understand what I'm saying right now, because the body is not involved, the emotional body is not involved, the senses are not involved, the physical heart that expands, that's not, none of that is there, none of that is involved. It is the state of pure love, and you are it. And that is, in my understanding, is the actual God. And I think that, well, at least through the work of Paul Wallace, who talks about many of these things in his, not this, but he talks about creation of the human race in the book of Genesis. He wrote about that in Escaping from Eden. And he talks about also, he also talks about Jesus and the teachings, the actual true teachings of Jesus, when he was saying the Father, when he was referring to the Father, the kingdom of my Father. That was not the fifth dimension, or some bearded dude on a cloud, or whatever beings that were presenting themselves as God. That was that fabric of the absolute that he was referring to. That's, at least that's what I read and heard in Paul Wallace's work. That Jesus knew, he practiced, he practiced different yogic techniques, and then he knew the actual source of his existence, and that was the true absolute.
Would you say that within the void, or at least the true void, all information about everything, all knowledge is there as well?
It's a very interesting question there, because I know that all knowledge, what we perceive as knowledge, right? What we perceive as information, that's all stored in the Akashic records. That's all stored within the simulation. And we, as the subjects of the simulation, we can process it and receive it and stuff. What you experience in the true void is the knowing. It's the state of knowing. It's the same kind of like, explain the difference between the love and the state of love, right? Explain the difference between knowledge and the state of knowledge, or the state of knowing. Knowledge and the state of knowing. So there is a state of knowing, which also is impossible to explain in human terms because, oh, well, if you know, then you got knowledge, right? But if it's the fabric of everything, then it contains everything within itself already, but it's the state of knowing rather than the package of knowledge. Package of knowledge is within the simulation, is within the Akashic records.
While you were there in the void, didn't you come back with downloads of information?
So I was in the state of knowing, and when I was there, I was not thinking about my questions. I was not thinking about what I want to know, but because my physical body vehicle was fixated on getting more information about the subject of reincarnation, the subject of the structure of the system, right? When I would come back, I would say touched by that knowing, right? My processor right here in my head will distill through everything and then spit out an idea or spit out like some sort of information. So then I would have, so it was processed through the body vehicle. It was like all the knowing, the infinite knowing was processed through the body vehicle. What I focus on here is a physical body. My brain filtered out, we don't need this, we don't need that, we don't need, oh, that's what she wants to know, here's the information. So that's an incredible question. I've never really answered that, because a lot of people ask me like, how come you don't know this and that, right? If you go into the void. Because I never wondered about it, I would say, I never asked that question. I never focused on that question. Like my computer brain here never focused on that question. So when I go into the state of knowing and come back, and nothing is retained in there regarding that specific question. But if you have a specific question within the physical body vehicle, then it will, your brain computer will sort through and find the answer, and then you have your downloads. This I'm actually quite excited about figuring out how this works. I've never explained that before.
So are you saying then that if you set the intention of what you want to know and then go do Kriya Yoga or whatever technique you use to go to the void, you will get that information, and when you come back, your brain will sort it out for you?
Yeah, you will not know, you will not remember your question in the void, because you will not be the human. You will not consciously be going like in the space of the black ocean of the absolute, like, where is that answer? You're not doing that because you don't remember any of it. But when you come back, somehow, usually for me, it happens after I slept too. Like I'll come back and I would sleep a little bit after the meditation. I wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I have the answer. All of a sudden, meaning I brought that from the fabric of knowing, from the all-knowing fabric. And while I slept, my computer processor inside my head distilled that to the answer that I'm seeking.
I'm just changing subjects here, but...
Thank you, but I'm so excited because I have never put this in words. I never figured this out until this second, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. You can write about it in your next book.
Yes, I will, actually.
Is the tunnel itself part of the simulation?
100%, yes, absolutely. And all tunnels are part of the simulation. All tunnels, because there are some teachings like, oh, don't go into the white tunnel of white light, go into the blue tunnel, go into the purple tunnel. It doesn't matter. If it's a tunnel, it's a part of the simulation, and it's strong. It will pull you up into itself like a vacuum cleaner. It like really sucks you right in. And once you're in it, that's it. You really can only escape at the moment before the tunnel, right at that second when the body separates, or when the soul, your energy separates from the physical form.
After doing over 700 near-death interviews, I have come up with about 4 or 5 outcomes of where people go. And one of them is just a person pops out of their body and they're just hovering around and watching what's going on, like surgery or whatever, and then they go back in.
Yeah.
How would you describe what's happening there within, especially with the simulation theory?
What's happening there is that the astral body is out of the physical body, but they're still within the simulation of surgery, or the hospital room or whatever, right? It is, for me, I'll be honest with you, figuring out or really truly tapping into the idea that this physicality is a simulation too is really challenging, because wait a minute, here's me, here's my body, like how am I simulated, right? But when the non-physical form, which is the astral form of the human in this particular scenario, is out in the room watching surgery, which is also a projection, apparently, right? Then that's just that. Everything is within the simulation. Everything is within the matrix structure. And they didn't die, and they're not to the point where they're supposed to go and have a life review, or they're not having a clinical death. So they are just hanging around that room and observing, because there is some sort of awareness, which I don't know where it's at, but there's some sort of awareness that the body is going to be revived fast enough, and it doesn't need to go through the whole shebang and be sent back. They can just hover over that operation table and come back in. So from the way it sounds, it's like astral projecting. When you astral project, you can hang in your own room, you can observe your body, or you can go somewhere else, and then you return to the body. So this very much sounds like an astral projecting.
Some of my near-death experiencers claim that when they were on the other side, they woke up in a pod, like something you saw in the movie of The Matrix.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Ooh, now that would be scary. A little bit, right? See, I've been showing on the idea of what exactly does the simulation produce for you. I know that astral dimension is very flexible. If you believe you're going to like a angelic looking reality, you will. If you believe you're going to like a beautiful glowing park, you will experience the park. If you believe you're going into like a dark, scary environment, you'll experience that. So it is possible that whatever the person at some point of their existence thought about or believed is going to be shown to them at that moment. I also wonder, because I always wondered, like, well, how come some people during the near-death experiences end up in the void or end up in the black space, and others end up in some sort of reality, right? So my big question, and I would love to go back and ask these people who ended up in the void, would be if they ever had any thought about what the afterlife should look like. All right. So if a person thought that they were going to be taken in a pod, I don't know, in a little pod somewhere, even if they had the fleeting thought of that for a moment while watching a movie, the simulation probably, or that non-human AI just like scan them. Okay, we're gonna show them this, because that's already in the records. That's already in there. All right, that would be my theory at the present time. And the ones who potentially never ever had even a fleeting thought about how it would be when they die, they might land in the space of darkness because there's nothing there naturally, right? The ones that there's so few out of near death experiences who find themselves in the space of complete darkness. So few. They're like 4 out of 100, let's just say, right? Why? So I'm positing here right now that, or I posit that it's possible that they never really actually had an idea, and that's why they ended up in the completely empty space. And the person who experienced a room, a park, a pod, had that idea somewhere throughout the entire length of their existence, and that's what the simulation produced for them.
One of the most intriguing outcomes of the NDE that I've seen is that a person ends up in a waiting room. And I've heard that more than once. And I think it's fascinating to be in a room like a waiting room at a doctor's office or something.
Yeah. Back in the day, I had very strong non-physical connection with Bob Marley, out of all people, right? And he came into my dreams and he came into my visions. And when there was a time, so we had an interaction in a non-physical, right? In the dimension 4.5D, the dimension of lucid dreaming or the dimension of deep meditation. So he showed me a few things. He told me a few things I didn't know, and then I double checked it on I Googled it and I was like, oh, he just showed me that. And then the last time he said, this is the last time we're speaking. And we were like in an empty stadium or something at that point. And I said, why? Where are you going? And he said, I'm going right here. And he showed me behind the empty stadium, it was just a visual, right? Was a long, dark corridor. And there were people all sitting along that corridor, like in line. And then the end of the corridor was the light. And he said, I'm going there. I'm getting in line. And he never came back, and I tried to look for him. I tried to connect with him again. This went on for a while. This went on for a couple of years, right? And then he just said, this is the last time I'm going in line. And yesterday I was listening to David Icke's The Reveal, that part, and he says that one of your guests, he actually mentioned one of your guests, one of your episodes, where the person was in line to reincarnate. And so I think that's yesterday, actually just now I'm putting that together, that my experience with Bob Marley, where he said, I'm going in that, and it was like a dark, narrow corridor, and everyone was just sitting there waiting, and I think he went, and that was the line to get back into physicality.
Well, if you're in a stadium with him, to me, it sounds like you are still in the simulation.
Of course. All of these things happen in the simulation. All mystical experiences where anything is happening is eye-opening, heart-opening, mind-blowing as they're all within the simulation. Simulation encompasses many different dimensions, universes, but all within the level of consciousness where subjects are utilized for something. There are different teachers that say, there are 15 dimensions within the matrix or 12 dimensions within the matrix. I have not seen past the 6. Like I said, the 6 was the static. But then again, it could be that there are 15 dimensions that are simulated within the matrix, right? And I was seeing outside, I was just seeing that it was projected from the 6th dimension or above the 6th dimension. So I don't know. But yeah, absolutely. If anything is happening, it is within the simulation. We're in it. So there's nothing to be freaked out about. The mystical experiences are very powerful and can be life-changing, but it is still a part of the dimensional structure of the matrix.
Is there any possible way that being in the simulation and the matrix could be a good thing?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, a lot of people enjoy what's going on Earth. A lot of people believe that they're here to learn and grow and experience. And if you do focus on the positive, it makes life easier. And if you do the inner work and clear your triggers and help yourself elevate your frequency within the matrix, you will experience the fifth dimensional state. That's true. The fifth dimension is a part of the matrix, but you will experience lightness of being within the matrix. You're still not free to go after that. You will still be sent back and told you need to, oh, you did too good in this one, go, suffer because we were not getting any lusha for you. There'll be some reason to send you back. So yeah, it could be comfortable within the earth plane, within the simulation, if you know what you're doing and if you prepare yourself.
It's kind of like in the original movie, The Matrix, where the guy that betrays Neo was making a deal with him and saying, I know this is not real, but it's delicious and I love it. And I'm happy to go back and make me somebody important.
Yeah, I know. And we're conditioned into this. If you look at 50% of the New Age teachings, they are about how to make life easier, how to bring heaven to earth and live it here. And that's all you can do, really. I mean, we're in it. You can either, be digging face down in the trenches, or you can dig your way out and up and have a lighter experience of the simulation. And it might just be in this lifetime, because that does not do anything for your future incarnation, because we're wiped, we're cleared between incarnations, and you might come back, I don't know, as a dog or something in the next incarnation. And so paying off karma or doing really good in this incarnation is meaningless, except to enjoy this particular experience. Make it lighter for yourself. Stop producing the loosh for the handlers while you are here. Have a good life. Stop producing loosh.
The population keeps growing on the planet, and I think we're over 8 billion now.
Yeah.
Do you have any explanation for that?
Yeah, because they keep recruiting.
From where?
From other planets that are involved in our reincarnation cycle or involved in the simulation, but also from outside. The ones from outside of the simulation are the juiciest. They produce the highest quality loosh, because they're the beings of the higher light or the higher frequency. And if you can lure these beings into earth plane, then you can really milk them here through the suffering system, of the physical experience. Yeah, I think they keep recruiting, and there's whole talk about, oh, now earth is like on the precipice of change, and so let's all go and all help. Great, come and help, and remember about this for one incarnation, and then you are a part of the system again.
Isabella, you mentioned your new book. What is the title of it, and where can people learn more about it?
It is Beyond the Trap. Beyond the Trap. And the first one was Leaving the Trap. And this is book 2 of the series. So Leaving the Trap and then Beyond the Trap. Because like I mentioned already, I literally learned and found out so much by just constantly focusing on this subject for a whole year that I had to update the people who read my first book on here's what I know now, and how was your day? How was your journey? I also give recommendations for those who want to actually practice Kriya Yoga and Cosmic Cobra breath and the breath work that Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, and other teachers that give that breath work that liberates you from the body, shuts down the left brain function, and allows you to come out and experience the absolute. So there are side effects that you will experience with the Kundalini awakening and with doing these practices. And so I cover that to prepare people's minds and help them if they really want to train. And there's plenty of time for them to train before they pass. So my book is, both of them are on Amazon under How to Exit Reincarnation. Book series. I call it series because it's really one book is interconnected with the second one. I also opened the online school, and I'm going to teach online classes there. But right now I have a pre-recorded course that I created for people that is also linked with the books. And it's the how do I do that? There. The voidacademy.net, thevoidacademy.net. And all of the resources, everything that I currently know is on that website. So if people are interested, if they want to learn more, if they want to find out more, they can go to thevoidacademy.net. There are resources there. That's where to find me. And I also have a YouTube channel that I have not had any time to put any videos on lately, but it's there, and there is still a lot of information on that too.
Well, if people have questions for you after this podcast, are you open to receiving them?
I'm receiving about 300 emails a day or more now, so it's challenging to get back to everyone. But I have a group on Facebook. I have the Exiting Reincarnation private group where people gather, and if I'm not there to answer the questions, I have a moderator who is very well aware on the subject, and I also have the students or people who are very well aware of the subject, so they pitch in and help and answer. And I also make sure to go in a group at least once a week and answer the questions. So that would be the easiest access. I also do answer comments on YouTube when I get to it. And so I would say that would be, and for those who just send questions or send their stories, I read them. I'm not able to get back to everyone in person, but I read them, I remember them. And a few of these I answered in my second book, and I also answered them in videos, and I address them in posts in the on Facebook and stuff. I only do Facebook and YouTube, that I don't have time for anything else. So even if they don't hear from me directly in response to their questions or their stories, then there's going to be an answer either through my videos, through my books, through my workshops, or within the Exiting Reincarnation group.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
The source of everything is perceived as darkness because there's nothing there. But the more we embody it, and the less we block it, the more radiant we are from within. And everyone can access that with a little effort It is no longer something that is only available to those in monasteries. It is no longer something that is unattainable, is only a big secret in the mystical schools. It is something that is accessible and attainable. And once you have attained that access, it will liberate your mind. It will restore your abilities, and it will give you an experience as a fuller human, regardless of being within the simulation. And it will also open the door, give you a ticket out of the simulation, if this is what you want at the end of this lifetime. So there is the light at the end, the light at the end of this human tunnel, for sure.
Isabella, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest again.
Jeff, you're amazing. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I love your style, and I love what you're bringing to the people. Thank you for what you are and what you do for all of us.
Thank you. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.